Record. All right, it is that time of year where we start to think about the Broadway Street Fair with a lot of intensity because it is coming up literally this weekend, and it is one of, if not the most exciting weekends of the year in a lot of ways for Newport and Newport County as a whole. David Lopes joins us, who's one of the organizers and a curator of music at the event. And thanks for your time this morning. And look, this is it. Here we go. It's happening.
Good morning, Bill, and good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for having me on the podcast today. Yes, it's happening, and you're catching me right here as we head into the final week before the event, which I think you know from being involved with us in the past. It's a week of madness as we get ready to entertain possibly 20,000 people in our 2 mile neighborhood.
Which is such an amazing thing because it brings an area that is already vibrant and is such a relevant space to life at a whole new level, introduces new people to the area, and then it provides a sense of really generative community space for those who are either residents or frequent flyers, so to speak, to the Broadway business district. What goes into the planning from this, from your standpoint? What goes into the planning for this?
Um, Quite a bit. My segment is the music, basically, and when you zoom out to a larger level, of course, with the 200 vendors, and then the large community involvement, each one of us, myself, Deb Bailey, and Jennifer Sunderland, we all have a part to play here, a role to play, if you will. For my segment, the music starts many months ahead of time. As you know, there's a lead time to book talent. So, and what I've noticed in the past 6 months, that lead time is actually extended. So many performers are booking out 6 months in advance. So to go out and find a James Montgomery or to find a Steve Smith or a Soul Shot, the timing is key. So we actually did get started a little bit earlier this year. Even with that, we ran into some, I wouldn't call it an issue, but some performers already being booked elsewhere, so we couldn't have access to them. Um, that said, though, we did, of course, put together a great slate with James Montgomery, who's a local icon and a blues icon as well, and the great Steve Smith and the Nakeds returning to a different location, which is great. They're going to be on the Old Colony stage this year. Soul Shot coming to Equality Park. They are top tier reggae. So to bring acts like this back, we had to start planning early. So I would say the key factor is early planning.
You mentioned different stages. That's such a critical portion of this event is the flow. You start if you start at the, so to speak, the top, the northernmost point of the event, which would be Equality Park and by the parlor, and start working your way down through Washington Square. You can spend as much or as little time doing that as you'd like, but you will encounter so many different performers. You'll encounter so many different vendors, so many different people and scenarios. Each stage has come over these last several years to have its own identity, its own unique sort of almost, I would say, spiritual level of importance. And when you have different artists performing on different stages, it just shows the sort of dynamic framework that you have created for this event. It's not just a free for all. All right, where's this person play? All right, set over here. You anybody got an extension cord? This is a real festival at this point.
Thank you for using the word zones, actually, Bill, because we strive to make it so that when someone starts, like you said, at the top of the route up at Equality Park, they're strolling down. So at that first segment, they're at Equality Park, they hear music, they see vendors, and literally after a short bend in the road, they might be down at City Hall, and it's almost like could almost feel like a different city in the sense that it's different music programming, different vendors. Then you continue strolling down, and now Stone Street. Traditionally, it's a very acoustic area, although last year we had Jendo Taiko in there. So that area also creates a little bit of a kind of a neighborhoody vibe. And then you continuing down into Washington Square, Old Colony stage, and now it's almost like it's a colonial street festival. So we actually do put the planning in to bring that to people. And I think that's what sets us apart. We're not, like you said, borrowing extension cords and cobbling together a couple of speakers here. This is a major New England street festival.
It really is. It's earned that place, and I think honestly, it rivals PVD Fest. In my judgment, it's as great, if not greater, than a lot of the other events that take place around the state, in the sense that it brings such a wide array of people together. And at the end of the day, that really is one of the main purposes is the community connection. It's also the elevation and opportunity for the businesses. We're still coming out of the pandemic from a business standpoint. Bars and restaurants along that route and other businesses benefit on a day of basis. They also benefit in an informational sense where people fall in love with a new restaurant or they say, oh, that's convenient that X, Y, or Z business is here. I didn't even realize that. It's a great showcase for such an important neighborhood in our community.
The business component, and again, thank you for mentioning that because we're strongly connected to the local business community. And it's not just there's a brick and mortar benefit. Each of those businesses are welcomed to set up in front, and many do. And I know that many businesses on the street have sometimes the best day of the year on Broadway Street Fair. It's not just those street side businesses, brick and mortar businesses, but the almost 200 artists and vendors and groups that'll be there. In fact, I was doing a farmer's market over the weekend, and a new vendor that I hadn't met before, we started speaking a little bit. And I actually pointedly asked her, I mentioned that I was involved with Broadway Street Fair, and I asked her, I said, hey, financially, how was it for you last year? And she said, it was great. So an idea that we have this year is to try and collect some metrics. In scaling up the event, becoming a bigger event, we realize that in order to secure funding and to go out and there's governmental funding, there's grants, we need to collect some metrics. So we're going to try and quantify that business effect a little bit this year. And of course, our friends at the Greater Newport Chamber are going to assist us. We're going to probably do some kind of an after event voluntary data collection activity to see exactly what we've done.
You've got a lot of volunteers involved, everything from handling waste management, not the company, the actual management of waste, and directing people, giving people information. That's a really important and hard to quantify in terms of just how essential it is to have people on the ground that are authority and able to say, wear a t-shirt and be able to help people out. How do you coordinate volunteers for this event?
Well, first of all, we couldn't do it without volunteers. I believe former Mayor Janie Bova is helping us as a volunteer coordinator. Beyond the personal component of having someone focused on it, it's going around asking our community partners. One of our our presenting sponsor, actually People's Credit Union, many of their staff members will sign up as volunteers, plus people from the community, businesses. We go everywhere, and we need a great number of people in order to make it happen. So to segue into some of the other things that we want to speak about and to let people know about, it's the wide range of music activities that are happening. We're very, very excited to have the PVD, the Providence Drum Troupe. You mentioned PVD Fest. The Providence Drum Troupe is going to absolutely dazzle everyone up and down the route today. So while we have those zones that we mentioned earlier, the drum troupe is going to go from the top to the bottom of the route, and they're going to actively engage with people. They don't put a time limit on what they're going to do because they're going to get people involved all along those little zones. And if they're stopping and people are enjoying what they're doing, they're going to stay there for a little while.
They're amazing, and that's such a great element, and it brings the entire route to life for sure. There's no question about it. Last couple of questions here. The logistics of it. It's this Saturday. It begins at noon, I believe, and runs until the late afternoon. Is that correct?
Yes, great point. We're doing something a little different. The event does start at noon. Vendors in position, stages ready. Certain portions, the upper portion of the route is running from 12 to 4, and the lower portion from Stone Street and south is going to run until 8 p.m. So places like our Beyond Broadway Beer Garden is going to run until about 6:45. Stone Street is going to run till about 6:45. And of course, the main stage with our great headliner, Steve Smith and the Nakeds. Steve's going to do 2 sets. So he's coming on at 5 p.m., going to go off about 6:30. come back on around 6:45 and play right until 8 p.m.
Awesome. Well, can't get enough Steve Smith, that's for sure. I don't know how they do it. I mean, watching them play, the amount of energy that's like a professional athleticism there that goes into those shows. So it's going to be a great day. It always is. And it's a great chance for anybody who is listening to this and hasn't ever been to Broadway or doesn't really understand what's happening to come check out this, what I would call incredibly important American neighborhood. And it's been such a wonderful, opportunity, me personally, having lived there, having such a strong relationship with the business community, the artistic community, and folks who live in and around that area. David Lopes, he's one of our big time musicians in town, big time curator, business person, and a community leader, heavily involved in the curation of the music portion of the Broadway Street Fair and just generally getting this event off the ground and taking it to that next level. Thanks for your work and your time today.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Bill. Have a great day.